Well, welcome everyone. My name is Chris Scuderi, and on behalf of the Florida Academy of Family Physicians, thank you for joining us for this engagement webinar. We created this experience with one clear purpose: to invest in you. The Academy knows the future of family medicine in Florida rests in the hands of the next generation of leaders, physicians who are ready to connect, grow, and lead. That is our why. So first night, this is about connection. Family medicine is stronger when we come together. Tonight is your opportunity to meet peers and mentors who share your passion and to begin building relationships that will carry you forward in your career. Second, it's about growth. Leadership doesn't just happen by chance. It's intentional and it's supported. Through the stories and perspectives you'll hear tonight, you'll gain insight into how others stepped into leadership roles, and you'll see the pathways and opportunities available to you within the FAFP. And third, it's about leadership. Our academy thrives when physicians like you step up to shape its direction. Whether through advocacy, education, innovation, or service, by being here tonight, you're already taking the first step towards that future. So as we begin, I encourage you to listen, engage, and imagine yourself as part of this story, because the future of family medicine in Florida will be built by leaders like you. And so we just want to welcome you and just share a little bit. We're going to have an excellent panel tonight. Dr. Daniel Carter, who is our FAP president-elect and will be our president come December, is joining us. Dr. Brooke Orr, who is our FAP treasurer, is joining us. And Dr. Monique DeVille, who's our newest member of our board of directors, is joining us tonight. And so they all have unique perspectives and would like to share how they came to the FAP and what their leadership journey has meant to them. And so a lot of times people ask, why should I be involved with the FAP? Why is this important? And so I think it all goes back to our mission. And our mission is simple, but it's powerful. Our mission is supporting Florida's family physicians. And all of us coming together can do that. And we do that through our vision, which is improving Florida's health through family medicine. And we do this by exercising our values, which is caring for Floridians, leading the healthcare team, and advancing family medicine. And so if you have any questions about our strategic objectives, you can just scan that QR code. We have 12 strategic objectives that the board of directors reviews every year to make sure that it is truly supporting Florida's family physicians. And then we live out these objectives through four goals. And we're going to go into these more on the next slide. But the first goal is advocacy. The second is education. The third is career and practice enhancement. And the fourth is member and leadership engagement. Next slide, please.
Sorry about that.
And so when you think about our key activities, there's a couple that are really important. And so when you think about the framework of how can I participate in leadership within the FAP, I think about these. And we're going to go more into the committee opportunities later, but think about advocacy and representation. When you think about FAP, we serve as a leading voice for family medicine in Florida. And so we're advocating. We're in Tallahassee. We're working with regulators. We're working with payers. We're working with the public. And we're trying to safeguard quality, cost-effective healthcare and really champion what's in the interest of family physicians in Florida. The second is a big one. It's continuing education professional development. I would put our CME up against any CME in this country versus probably anyone in the world. I think we have some world-class CME, and I just want to thank Dr. Julia Jenkins and the CPD committee. I think they do an amazing job. And not only do they present the weekend CME, but they also help develop KSAs, webinars, online education like tonight. And so we want to position ourselves constantly as a premier resource for lifelong learning for our family physicians here in the state of Florida. The next is member engagement and leadership development. And so you have the opportunity through the FAP to participate in many committees and many task force opportunities. And some of these are, CPD, advocacy, JEDI, Journal of Finance, Government Relations. We have a new physician task force. We have an AI task force. And so there's multiple ways to be involved. There's also programs such as the Doctor of the Day, where we send a number of our physicians and our residents to Tallahassee to support the state legislator. These are great ways, and so there's a lot of opportunities like we're going to discuss tonight to participate in leadership development. And then last is communication and public awareness. And the FAP is constantly thinking about how can we communicate better with our members. And this is especially with some of our newer physicians, we're looking, constantly looking at how can we improve this. But we do this, whether it's through our weekly emails, newsletter, journals, social media, websites. And then we also do this through public awareness campaigns, such as a physician decision. And so we want to constantly emphasize the importance and the value of family medicine, and we want to raise awareness around some of the public health and policy issues that affect Floridians. Next slide, please. And so why does it matter? When you think about, why should I be involved? I think that ultimately we must continue developing future FAP leaders to secure lasting wins for Florida's family physicians. When we think about these wins over the past couple of years, there's some big ones. These include passing direct primary care legislation, supporting medical debt relief for up to $150,000 through the Florida Reimbursement Assistance for Medical Education Frame Program, launching the Physician Decision Campaign to highlight the value of physicians training compared to the scope expansion sought by advanced practice professionals, delivering high-quality medical education for Florida's family physicians, consistent national representation for AFP commissions, and strengthening support for residents and our students. And tonight is especially important because the leaders we develop and empower now will shape what our academy and the future of family medicine look like in 2030, 2035, 2040, and beyond. And so I've said it throughout the year, and I'll say it again. We need to be bold and push our profession forward. Your engagement is critical to every success we achieve because if we aren't at the table, we'll be on the menu. And so at this point, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Dr. Brooke Orr. Brooke?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brooke Orr. I'm FAFP treasurer for this year. And so I'll start by telling you guys a little bit about my journey with becoming involved with the FAFP. And then we'll go on to talk a little bit about the various task forces and committees that are available through FAFP. So like a lot of you guys, I started my involvement with the FMIG in medical school, but that was mostly just showing up for the lunches and enjoying some free pizza. I, really wasn't very involved in terms of a leadership aspect at that time, but free pizza was great. So I moved to Florida for residency, and at that point, I became, more interested in organized medicine. I started attending the FAFP weekends and ultimately became vice president of the resident section for the FAFP. So that opened the door of being able to sit at the Board of Governors meetings and really see how the decisions were made for the organization and how the board puts forth the advancement of family medicine. So that got me really excited about FAFP and continuing on in service with the FAFP. So once I graduated residency, of course, we get started, usually take a few years starting to work. And then I got involved with some of the committees. I got involved with our journal committee, which you'll hear a little bit more about later, and also served a year as the member at large for the nominating committee. Ultimately, I progressed to being on the Board of Governors, where I've served both in the capacity of the FAFP side of the board and the FAFP Foundation Board. And during that time, I also served some time as the chair of the membership committee, which has now evolved into our new physician task force. So I recently spent 2 years as the FAFP Foundation president. So for you guys that aren't familiar with the foundation, that is our charitable arm of the FAFP. And it also houses all of the CME that is put on at our weekend events throughout the year. And more recently, for 2025, I was elected as FAFP treasurer. So what's a great way to start being involved with the FAFP? Well, one wonderful way to do it is to start by participating in our task forces and committees. And so there are several that we have, and to cover a lot of different interests out there. We have our residency directors council, and as the name implies, that is composed of our residency directors for the different programs in the state of Florida. And their goal is to improve the residency training for family physicians within Florida. We also have the New Physicians Task Force. So the New Physician Task Force keys in on persons that are within 7 years out from their residency training. And it helps to try to support the special needs of those people that are in the early stages of their career and help them to see the value proposition of participating with the FAFP. We also have the Artificial Intelligence Task Force. So, as you guys know, AI is just changing the face of medicine and changing how we practice. And so, the goal of the AI task force is to help provide practice resources for physicians to, hopefully make our life easier down the road, but also to identify some of the pitfalls and precautions that we need to take for AI. So that's going to be a real powerful force for the future. And so that is FAFP's attempt to guide us through that as that changes the way we practice. We also have the Justice, Equity, Diversion, and Inclusion Council, or as we like to call them, the JEDI. And so they receive referrals from the leadership to look at issues through the lens of equity and inclusion, and generate recommendations to the leadership of how we can be inclusive for all of our members. Next slide, please, Jay. Thank you. So we also have our Government Relations Committee. And so the Government Relations Committee keeps an eye on Tallahassee. They advise the Board of Directors and the Executive Committee on the policies and actions that are being developed to help advance the interest of family physicians and of our patients. We have the nominating committee. The nominating committee is chaired by the chair of the board, who is currently Dr. George Bernardo, our president from last year. And so this is a committee that is sanctioned by the bylaws, and it helps vet individuals that are being nominated for the board of directors, the executive officers, and also it helps in selection for the yearly awards recognition like Physician of the Year and such. So we have our journal committee. So hopefully you guys are familiar with the quarterly publication, Florida Family Physician. The journal committee helps come up with topics for the journal, and also recruit authors and guest editors to serve in production of that publication. The finance committee is chaired by the treasurer, so that would be chaired by me this year. And so we oversee the financial health of both the FAFP and the FAFP Foundation. So that involves looking at the monthly financial statements, approving annual budgets, or developing annual budgets, rather, gets approved by the board. And also supervising audits, and just making sure that we're being good stewards of our finances in order to support Florida's family physicians. The Continuing Professional Development Committee, or CPD committee, these guys are the workhorses for our CME, that excellent world-class programming that is put on at every CME weekend, and also a lot of which is available free online as well. They help plan that programming, and they make sure that it adheres to all the requirements for ACCME, for AAFP, so that we can get all of our CME credits as well. So thank you, Jay. I think we're handing it over to Dr. Carter. Here's a photo of our 2025 Board of Directors.
Good evening. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Danielle Carter. I am the president-elect for the FAFP this year, and I practice in Jacksonville, Florida. Similar to Dr. Orr, I was involved in positions as with the board as a resident. So I was involved in FMIG, but I actually grew up and did all of my schooling in Illinois before I moved to Florida for residency. So I didn't really have any exposure to the Florida Academy until I came here as a resident, and I'm grateful that I was able to get involved and stay involved and kind of be embraced by the group. I was at the time, most of the residency programs had what they call a program representative that they sent, similar to the students now have their school representatives that they send to the meetings. So I was our program representative and came to all of the kind of the 3 times a year meetings, and then was eventually elected as president of the resident section, or the resident, what we called resident board of directors. At that time, it was only open to PGY3s, so those board positions, those resident board positions, so secretary, treasurer, vice president, and president. But it's since expanded to be open to more residents of PGY 1, 2s, and 3s, except for the president role. So there are definitely opportunities. Don't think that residency is not a time that you can get involved if you have the time and the desire to. And then I left Florida for a little while and did my fellowship and a couple of years in rural medicine, and came back and was fortunate to be able to start back on the board by actually filling a vacant position by someone whose term was left open because they also moved. So again, I know that we have kind of our traditional rotation through timing of the board, but there are also going to be times to get involved off cycle, and understanding that, you know, practice conditions change and there might have to be some changes in between in your service. So don't be afraid to get involved. Even if you're not necessarily sure what the next step is for you, because this could be a helpful experience to bring you onto your next chapter that you go to. So of course, we'd love all of our leaders to stay in Florida, but we realize that that is not necessarily how things work out at all times. So while I've been I did 2 terms on the board of directors, and also then decided to get involved in some AAFP, so national level kind of leadership positions. So some of those were through the Florida chapter, and then some of them were also kind of a little bit more independent. So through the Florida chapter, I've been able to participate in the National Conference of Constituency Leaders, which is an AAFP program that brings typically underrepresented groups in medicine together to a conference for leadership development, for guideline development, resolution development, that hopefully will eventually be brought to Congress of Delegates, which is the policy-making body that also meets once a year for the AAFP, to put these into action as official AAFP actions or statements or positions. So at the NCCL, each state is able to send someone from each of the following categories. So women physicians, new physicians, BIPOC physicians, IMG physicians, and LGBTQ physicians. So Florida has a great track record of sending a full panel or a full representation of those to each meetings. And then you're able to network with similar physicians in similar situations from all across the state. And this meeting runs in parallel with the chapter leaders forum. So you'll also at that time get time to network with other chapter executives, chapter presidents, vice presidents, the AAFP board of directors. So it's just a really rich experience to go to this meeting once a year. I've also been able to serve as the delegate or the alternate delegate for the AAFP Congress of Delegates. So again, that is the policy-making body for the AAFP. So the chapter sends 2 alternate delegates and 2 delegates every year. That meeting is once a year in the fall. So that position, so that is an appointed position through the board, and it generally takes a little bit more exposure to go to these meetings, but it's also, the alternate delegate spot is also a great kind of starting point to experiencing the larger AAFP leadership, and as well as additional leadership within the chapter, because you will be making recommendations on behalf of the state for whether we support certain resolutions or causes that the AAFP is putting into motion. And within that, it's also really important to remember that each one of these leadership positions can open another place to be to have leadership. So like at the Congress of Delegates, you can then serve on reference committees and make recommendations that way. Within NCCL, every year they elect leaders or conveners for next year for the conference as a whole and for each one of those constituencies, and also elect people to be their representatives to the Congress of Delegates each year. So each kind of door or involvement also allows for another layer of involvement if you feel ready for it, or if it's something that you want to do. And then finally, I also through the NCCL, was elected in 2020 to be the new physician representative to the AAFP Board of Directors. So the larger Board of Directors for the AAFP elects at-large members for 3-year terms, but they have special positions for residents, for students, and for a new physician, so someone in their first 7 years of practice, to have 1-year rotating terms on the board, to have that exposure to the national level board. And then also served on AAFP commissions, which are the kind of the implementation body, if you will. So all of these things that we decide to do at Congress of Delegates, it then goes to the different commissions in order to be implemented. So again, that is something that you can serve on as a student, a resident, or an attending physician. So there are spots for all of those. And the being placed on one of these can be competitive, so it can take a little bit of time. It won't necessarily be that you apply the first time and get a spot on the commission, but of note, they have changed the commission structure a little bit to help with getting more people involved. So instead of a 4-year term, these are 2-year terms now, with the option to add another 2 terms, so you don't necessarily have to feel like that you have to know exactly what you're doing for the next 4 years. Or maybe it's something that you dip your toes and you said, you know, this is not the piece of leadership that I think that I want to be involved in right now, and I'm good after my 2 years and try something different or try a different commission. So and all of those are heavily supported by our exec team, our staff, our and our chapter, but it's a different sort of division than working directly within the FAFP exec board and board. So the engagement, so a lot of these we've touched on between Dr. Orr and myself already, or Dr. Scuderi's opening. So within the chapter, you can serve as Doctor of the Day in Tallahassee. You can get involved in our committees. You can apply for one of our board of director positions. And again, same thing with that. We are lucky that we have people who are interested to do these. So hold these positions. So board positions are not always the first year you apply that there's a spot for the board, but it's important that we know your interest and that you keep letting us know about that, and understand that it may be a couple years down the road, but we hear you, and we do have other ways that you can stay involved if you'd like to. You can also nominate yourself or a peer for one of the FAFP awards that are given out every year. So there is the Family Physician of the Year, Art of Medicine, Full-Time Educator, Part-Time Educator, Young Leader, Excellence in Advocacy, and the Resident Leader Award. So a number of ways that you can recognize peers for their contributions. Within the AFP, I did touch a lot of these in my slide, but we've got the FAFP delegations to the NCCL, which is a springtime meeting every year. You can serve on an AAFP commission. The trickiest thing here is there's a very small window for application, and then the new members of the commission are announced at the Congress of Delegates. One piece of AAFP and FAFP kind of combined leadership and advocacy that I haven't been a part of, but is also an amazing experience from everyone I've talked to, is the Family Medicine Advocacy Summit. So that's also once a year in Washington, D.C. So representatives from each state travel to the Capitol and discuss issues both with their state and kind of nationwide with their leaders and the staff of their leaders, both in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. And then we also have a whole other arm of ways that we can get involved. So the Florida Medical Association. So that is Florida's kind of chapter of the American Medical Association. So this is just not family physician leaders, but this is all of our specialty and subspecialty and subspecialty leaders who are here. And they do a House of Delegates annually as well. And FAFP sends a delegation to that meeting each year as well, to represent the needs of family physicians, specifically in that much larger scope of all of our physicians in Florida who are involved in organized medicine. And now I'll turn it over to Dr. DeVille to tell her story about how she got involved with our board of directors and Congress of Delegates now as well.
Exactly. Good evening, everyone. I am considered a triple gator, so I went to undergrad at University of Florida and did med school there, did residency there. Um, so my introduction to leadership through FAFP was through the meetings that I attended, FAFP meetings while I was in residency at University of Florida. One of my faculty advisors, Dr. Feller, who's the chair of one of the committees, the Journal Club committee, sort of recruited me in. So I started attending those meetings, and that was, I guess, would have been my introduction into leadership. Um, but JEDI is an interesting committee. I learned about JEDI through an email. Usually these emails are from the FAFP Journal Club spearhead, Deborah, and I received an email through Deborah concerning this JEDI committee. And so it's a group, I would say, about maybe 10 to 15 members, and we address certain concerns regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion. Um, Sometimes from the actual board of directors or any other things that are going in legislature that we would want to present a statement on or what have you. So like we've sort of repeated over and over again, one door sort of opens another door to another door. So I don't want to deter you. If you don't want to go straight to being the president, you can always get involved as being a committee member, and then it opens from there. So yeah, I addressed sort of my why. I just got introduced to it through UF residency and then joined those other committees. I was always already you know, very involved community-wise, just through my local medical committee or medical society. So I was doing leadership through there. I have also done the FMA delegate through the medical society. So this was just another way of doing leadership just within another organization. Many of you maybe have leadership positions in outside organizations. So those leadership skills work very well with FAFP as well. And then interestingly enough, I sort of had a career change. I've only been in family medicine for about 10 years, but sort of switched from clinical medicine to utilization management. And I think the FAFP was very integral for me to have that exposure and even have an awareness that this sort of career pivot was possible. You know, networking and just talking to other fellow family medicine physicians, it was very eye-opening. So I, explored other avenues. So currently in utilization management, and I feel like FAFP also gives you a good supportive system if you have questions about making career transitions or doing non-clinical aspects of family medicine. Um, yeah, I think that's about it for me.
All right. Well, thank you all very much, our distinguished panel here. I'm gonna take it over at least to do a panel discussion. But before I do that, I want to kind of give the public service announcement. I'm Jay Milson, your Executive Vice President CEO for the Florida Academy, and um, just to kind of reset in terms of who we are and what we do. We are a federated model with the American Academy of Family Physicians. So you have to be a member of one to be a member of another. But if you leave the state, you also will just transfer over to another chapter throughout the nation, and we will help with that transition. We do not like when you leave, but we will certainly help with that transition. As we're talking about leadership, we can always do a warm handoff to my peers throughout the country who would love to have you involved in any capacity. I know um, Dr. Carter talked about that coming in from another state. It can be somewhat intimidating. Um, to get engaged with your chapter, but I can assure you, every one of the chapters out there, all 50 plus, because you can go into Puerto Rico and otherwise, would welcome you to get engaged and involved in their chapters. But we are the third largest chapter throughout the nation, if you can imagine, California and Texas. Texas is always bigger, but not bigger than California in this regard. But we run a pretty large outfit, if you will, and you can see it from our advocacy efforts and our educational efforts in the programming that we do. We're a little different than your than your normal medical society. But we've got a wonderful staff with over 70 years of experience in medical society management that work very hard. 5 of us work very hard on behalf of providing you value in everything you do. The board is strategic, gives us the tools and resources and the priorities of what we need to accomplish, and we take them out, and we're the management. We implement those policies and procedures and initiatives to bring that value to our members throughout the state. So that's my public service announcement. For those of you that get involved, you get to hear way more than that, and you probably just want to wear these earmuffs so you don't have to hear me. But tonight you signed up for this. All right, what can I say? So we're going to do some questions of our panelists here. I'm going to start out with I'll go back to Dr. Orr as she started. You know, she talked about her experiences, a lot of different kind of moving up throughout the leadership, from all the way from a student to where she is now as treasurer of the FAFP. What did you, Dr. Orr, what did you think was maybe the hardest first step? You know, a lot of people get into this, and the hardest part is just taking that first step. What do you think helped you through it, or can you elaborate a little bit more on that, or an experience or a relationship with someone that's a good memory?
Sure. Well, I think the hardest first step is just realizing that you have the ability to take some initiative, or at least it was, for me, reaching out and just saying, hey, I'd like to be involved. How do I get involved? I was very lucky that I had some mentors within the FAFP, some of my peers that I saw them getting involved and saw how they did so, and took some advice from them to get involved. So, I think just taking that first step, as with a lot of things in life, it can be the most difficult thing. And once you get in there, the ball gets rolling. But, don't be afraid to ask, those of us that are already serving on committees or on the board or in other aspects of leadership. If you're interested, we're more than happy to help you along and help you achieve your goals and becoming more involved in the FAFP.
If you have one thing to say in terms of what was the most rewarding experience of your time with the FAFP involved in leadership, what would it be?
Sure. So I think every time I go to a meeting, I come back so energized and thrilled with family medicine. I think it helps me keep that belief in what I do, that I'm out there fighting the good fight. We tend to get bogged down in our practices, in the tough parts of life, and it's so easy to get burned out. And FAFP has such a good energy. It really, for me at least, takes away a lot of that burnout that can start to creep up over time. And it helps me remember why we're in it, that we're in it for patients, that, we have this wonderful, noble profession that we're protecting, and that we're all in it together too. So the camaraderie, I think, is really special.
That's awesome. All right, I'm going to switch gears. I'm going to go to Dr. DeVille. I love how you talked about being a triple Gator, not because I'm a Gator, but because you did it all in the state of Florida, and then you stayed. We love you. That's actually 4. We're going to give you the quadfecta. But and how you got involved was just through some of your mentors. Um, can you elaborate on, or what was there any hesitancy to get involved, or were they enough to push you, just give you that nudge to be involved as you
Well,
are?
I think leaders, as family medicine physicians, we are leaders anyway, correct? So I feel like I had some of the skills and some of the interest. I think Dr. Feller sort of just exposed me to the committee. So initially, when I was in residency, I would just attend the FAFP meetings because we would go for free as a resident. So once I started attending the meetings, and I'm like, oh, okay, then I'm like noticing there's different committees, but just not having the knowledge of what exactly goes on in the committee meeting. So I guess a little nudge from Dr. Feller. He's like, well, why don't you just come to one of the meetings? Just, show up and just listen in. And on that same day I signed up for the committee. And, that's sort of not a voluntold, but sort of an exposure, and then you grow a liking to it. So I think a nudge from the mentor is great, but if you don't have a mentor, you haven't identified a mentor, just asking or just being curious is enough.
Yeah, it's like you say, when you're growing up, just show up. I mean, that's I'd often tell my kids. I mean, the worst could happen is at least they know you're there, and that involvement can trigger and get you on the board someday, right? I mean, how that evolves. Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to come back to you in a second. I'm going to go back over to Dr. Carter here and ask. So we talked about what was the most rewarding experience. I'm going to give you a little bit of a curveball here and say, what's been the most challenging experience having, through your leadership of the FAFP, or even on the AFP board, or you were in Virginia for a while. Share that to maybe calm some of that anxiety in terms of
Yeah,
what it may be.
absolutely. So I will say unexpected moves early in practice can be very stressful, right? So that was the Virginia to Florida move for me. But just like Jay was saying, knowing your staff and knowing your exec and knowing what you want to kind of do and transfer between is so important because even in the short time that I was in Virginia, when I left Florida, I gave Jay a heads up that, hey, I think I'm going to be here in Virginia for a while. Spoiler alert, I was not. But he was able to connect me and get involved with the board there. And it felt like a very nice, stable spot. I was familiar with what I was doing and then kind of ended up back in Florida, which I am not mad about, right? I'm happy to be back, but that was a big transition. And it was challenging from a practice standpoint and from a professional standpoint, but then having kind of the FAFP as home, if you will, to kind of fall back on did help ease that transition as I was kind of moving back kind of unexpectedly. So that was a challenge. And then to my point about making sure that you stay involved and that you just keep showing up because like you said, they'll know that you're there. So personally, when I was at the NCCL, so the National Conference of Constituency Leaders, the first couple of years that I went NCCL, I said, I want to get involved right away and I'm going to apply and I'm going to do the speech and I'm going to do the Q&A and all of the things that you have to put yourself out there to do to be one of the conveners or one of the leaders of those constituency groups. So I was a representative of the women's constituency for those years. And for 2, 3 maybe years in a row, I wasn't elected as the convener. And then I kind of switched gears and kind of thought, where, if that's not working for me, where can I use these skills that everybody keeps telling me that I have, that and that was another place where staff was really, really helpful, and other board members and AAFP members were saying that you should keep trying. I actually applied for the new physician member to the board and then was elected to that in 2020. So it took some coming back and forth, and it was really disappointing in the time. But now I'm really happy with how it turned out because my time on the AAFP board was a really great learning experience for me that gave a lot of insight into how things work.
Yeah, timing's everything in a lot of these situations. We've got many leaders that through my 13-year tenure that have expressed an interest in wanting to move up in leadership, and sometimes it's just where the slots are and the timing. And so it's nothing personal. It's just how things play out. But I like what you're saying in terms of how that involvement and showing up, as I mentioned earlier. And I'm gonna call back our president here just for a second, because I'll tell a little story. It was 2020 March. Some people might remember that time period as being a little rough. You might think it was for COVID, but uh, um, its scope of practice had just expanded in the legislature, and this guy Scuderi is calling me and emailing me and saying, "Hey, we need to be paying a little more attention to this COVID thing." I said, "Man, I got things I need to worry about." Well, what I didn't realize is we needed to be shifting our focus and worrying about something a lot more important than scope of practice expansion. And so, Dr. Scuderi, you want to elaborate on that a little bit in terms of how that elevated your presence within the leadership?
Sure, no, Jay, and I think this is Just one of the beauties of the FAFP is there is true member and board involvement, and so I think that if there's something that interests you or you see a need, there's an opportunity to bring it forward. Just like at that time, saying, "Hey Jay, I think we've got trouble with this COVID pandemic. I think this is gonna be something we're gonna have to face." And so we were able to quickly pivot and start working on developing education for for all our members, and so I think that was a great opportunity. But I also want to share, the first time I applied for the board, I did not get selected, and I was disappointed. And so I think just hanging in there, I just want to encourage everyone tonight that if you are listening, sometimes just letting people know, hey, I do want to keep participating. I am very interested, and let me get on some committees, let me learn some more, and let me participate, because just showing up really makes a big difference. And it's one of the most rewarding things you could do, I'd say. And just being part of this is just like Dr. Ward mentioned, I think is just renews you, because it is kind of fighting the good fight out there, and trying to do what we can to help our patients, help the state, and help each other.
Yeah, that's great. All right, well, we're going to wrap it up on the panel here. I'm going to ask some rapid fire real quick. Dr. DeVille, I'm going to go back to you. Great perspectives in terms of how you're not like Dr. Orr and Dr. Carter, from a sense you didn't kind of grow up through the leadership, but you've obviously made a big impression coming in the last few years and participating through the committees. Any advice to our members out there tonight that want to get involved?
Yes, absolutely. So I would say just try to reach out to one of the committee chairs and attend a committee meeting. If you're already attending the FAFP conference, these meetings go on early in the morning. So usually it's not conflicting with any of the CME learning that you have to do. And get involved in a committee, or even baby steps, attend the committee, so that you can get just a general sense of what the what you would be required to do. It's not anything I would say it's heavy. It's not a lot of work, I would say, per se, on one person. It's shared. And at least for the committees, a lot of the committees just meet on the times of the FAFP meetings. JEDI meets virtually, so that it's very doable, very manageable for you to work into your schedule.
That's great. Yeah, and if you come to our meetings, if you want to attend a committee meeting, you can always watch, because my crack staff has set up these meetings in a hybrid fashion. So you can always go back and watch a program that you may have missed. So we've even got that these days, which filled in a lot of blanks and concerns from the past. Dr. Rohr, I'm going to come back to you. And any final comments in terms of how you would encourage people to get engaged?
I encourage you, like Dr. DeVille, go to a meeting, even if you don't already have a specific committee that you're planning on sitting on, or just go to one of the weekend meetings, network. The leadership is always around, milling about. The staff is always open and accessible at the desk there, and can get you started in meeting the people that you're interested in meeting there, and can even direct you on to, say, sitting in on a committee meeting if you're wanting to try one out. But absolutely go to one of the weekend meetings. It's a great way to get in your CME and to get your foot in the door with learning how you want to participate.
All right, that's awesome. And Dr. Carter, you're incoming president next year. What words of advice or encouragement do you have to our
Yeah.
attendees?
First, I would say challenge yourself and promote yourself. You can do this. Like Dr. DeVille says, we all have leadership skills. We wouldn't ended up in the positions we are now without them. And I do think that we aren't as good, sometimes, especially as family physicians, as about playing or kind of telling other people what our strengths are and saying that I can do this. So putting yourself out there is important, but then also knowing that a lot of leadership is, like you said, Jay, right place at the right time. And it's not just right place at the right time for the organization, but it's also right place at the right time for you, where you are in your life, in your career. And we understand that that might look different. It might have pauses. You might be really involved at some times and really not be able to be involved. And that's why we have the breadth of different things that you can do within the academy. And even within leadership positions, there are going to be know what you're looking for out of the leadership position. So there are going to be some leadership positions where you're the part of a much bigger process, like the AAFP or our board of directors. Well, it's going to take longer to see change, but you know you're part of a big change. And there's also going to be roles in leadership. So these are maybe committees or even the resident board, or even, roles within your own hospital where you're going to make a decision and it's going to have an immediate impact, and that's going to feel good as well. So which one of those roles are you kind of looking for? And I use one of the things that I didn't get to answer the question about rewarding experience, but one of the things that brings me joy every single year when I come to this meeting is seeing how many people are engaged in the residency fair and the poster contest every year, and how much that's grown, and how many people really, really enjoy that, because that was an initiative that actually came from my time frame on the resident board. So you can make changes that will stay with the academy, and that you will be able to watch them grow as well.
That's awesome. Yep. We're getting ready to blow that part of our spring program up too in a very positive way. So stay tuned for more information coming on that. Well, I am a product of the three B's: be punctual, be brief, and be gone. So if you do not know how to get started, please scan that QR code, go onto our website. It will look, not to take it away from you, but all you have to do is go to the front page of our website and you can find it right here, engagement opportunities. It brings you to this page that gives you multiple ways that were mentioned tonight in terms of how to participate, from committee involvement, award board nominations, endorsement requests for other positions such as an FAFP delegate, to the FMA, to the NCCL, ways that you can get engaged to Doctor of the Day and how we support that, as well as our you can actually apply to be a delegate to one of these positions. So some of these things have just recently closed because we're in that cycle, but doesn't mean that you can't still get it in there in terms of particularly for committee service next year, because I'll be meeting with Dr. Carter very soon to be talking about those things, and she'll be sharing that with the board shortly after that. So all the rest of this information is pretty straightforward. We've gone through Q&A. I've seen some questions come up tonight. Don't hesitate. If you have any questions, please, that's what staff exists for. We love getting not many phone calls anymore, but we love entertaining questions either by email or on social media and otherwise. But we're here for you. So never hesitate to reach out to us. And if you've got questions or ways that we can be a resource to you. But I want to thank all of our panelists this evening, including our president, Dr. Scuderi, for getting this off the ground. And anything you want to conclude with, Dr. Scuderi?
Yeah, no, I just want to thank everybody for participating tonight. This is really about the future, and just in all the organizations I've been a part of, the FAP is by far, probably the most well organized. And I want to thank Jay and his team. They're incredible and are just extremely supportive and just really put together a great program, and make being part of this organization just so rewarding. And then the other thing that is very rewarding about being part of this is just the time spent with your colleagues. So often we get to be in silos in family medicine, and having the ability to work with amazing physicians like this panel from around the state, is just so inspiring. And you come back and you are re-energized. And so I just want to thank you for taking your time out on a Tuesday night to do this, and really hope that you want to be part of this process, because there really have a great opportunity here in Florida. And we have a great opportunity over the next couple of years to really influence our medical students and our residents, and to really help improve the health of the state. And so it starts here, and we're really excited that you decide to look more into it. And if you have any questions, please reach out to any of us. We'd love to help you to become just part of this organization, and help you on your journey. So thank you.
That sounds great. And we'll end with what Dr. DeVille said: you are leaders. One of my favorite quotes is by past President John Gross when he walks in the doctor's lounge: "You're the smartest doctors in the room." And there's more to that than just believing and being a part of family medicine. It's you guys are special people, and we certainly appreciate it. We look forward to connecting with you in any way. Please reach out to us. Thanks for attending. Have a great evening. Good night.